Today we're going to be doing Unit 1, Notes 3. So in Unit 1, Notes 3, we're going to be talking about solving inequalities. We're going to use the same steps we use to solve equations, but this time it's going to be applied to inequalities. So let's just take a second, and I want to review those steps that we talked about yesterday. The reason why I want to review those steps is when you get stuck and you don't know where to go next on a problem, this is a really great way of kind of helping you figure out where to go next. So the first step is to simplify each side of the equal sign by distributing and simplifying each side. Okay, so next, the step is to gather the variables onto one side of the equal sign. Okay, so we want to get everything with a letter on one side. Next, to use addition or subtraction to cancel the constant. So the constant is the thing that's just a number. We either need to add or subtract it over to the other side. And last but not least, use multiplication or division to cancel the coefficients. So that number that's being multiplied to the outside, we need to get rid of it. So let's just take a second and let's just start by reviewing just simple solving equations. So for this one, we want to start with step 1, which is distributing and simplifying each side. So I'm going to distribute in that -2. -2 times 3 is -6, and then x. -2 times 5 is a -10. And that's going to be equal to 4x plus 20. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is to get your x on the same side. So since this is on this side, I'm going to bring it over to the other side, and I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Okay, so -6x minus 4x is going to give me -10x. And then I'm going to do -10 is equal to 4x plus 20. Oops, I canceled out the 4x. That phone call way distracted me, huh? And then I get, 20 here, okay? So then I need to get that -10 over to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and add 10 to both sides. Okay, so then I get -10x is equal to 20 plus 10, which is 30. So then I'm going to go ahead, since that -10 is being multiplied by the x, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by -10. 30 divided by a -10 is a -3. Okay, so that's your final answer. Let's go ahead and let's take a look now at number 2. So for number 2, we're going to have to do a lot more distributing. So I need to distribute here, and I need to distribute here. So -7 times p is -7p. -7 times -7 is -49. Now that -7 is only distributing into this first parenthesis. This next one I'm going to distribute in. So 3 times p is 3p. 3 minus 4 is -12, and that's equal to 17. So we have -7p plus 3p. So I'm going to get -4p minus 49 minus 12 is equal to 17. So now that I've done that, I'm going to combine my constants. So I'm adding -49 and -12. When you add the two of those together, they end up getting more negative. So then -49 minus 12 is going to be a -61. Okay, so then I can go ahead and add 61 to both sides. So then once I do that, I get -4p. -17 plus 61 is going to give me 44. Okay. So then I'm going to take that -4, since it's being multiplied, and I'm going to divide both sides by -4. So then I get p is equal to 44 divided by -4, which is -11. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what these inequalities mean. And I really strongly encourage you to write this down, because if you don't, it won't help you on the word problems. Because what I try to do is say, hey, if you see these words, that means this when you're writing out a word problem. So what do these symbols mean? So the first one is less than. So what that means whenever you see less than is not as much as or fewer than. So if you see those two words, you know you need to use the less than symbol. Next, greater than means more than. So if you see that Shirley has X more than Cindy, you know that you need to use that greater than symbol based on the fact that it said more than. So then less than or equal to, the words you want to look for are at most or no more than. Okay? Last but not least, greater than or equal to. You're going to look for the words no less than or at least. And I just want to take this second to remind you that if the video is going too fast for you to write down, you can always pause it and write it. In fact, that's what I always suggest you do. So let's start with some inequalities. But before we do that, we need to remember something that's very, very important when you're dealing with inequalities. When you are solving an inequality, you need to remember to reverse the inequality symbol. So whenever you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you reverse that inequality symbol. So let's take a look at number 3. So first thing I'm going to do on number 3 is I'm going to distribute. So I'm going to do negative 4 times 5w. That's going to give me a negative 20w. Negative 4 times negative 8. Now when you multiply two negatives, it's going to become a positive. So now that's going to be a positive 32. And that's going to be greater than 52. So then we're going to subtract 32 from both sides. And I get negative 20w is greater than 52 minus 32. And when I subtract those, I'm going to get 20. So now I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by a negative 20. And when I do that, I can flip the symbol. So that'll give me a negative 1. Whenever you divide or multiply by a negative number, you should have these little alarm bells going off in your head that say, hey, I'm dividing by a negative number. I need to flip the symbol. So really be paying attention to those negatives. And it's only when you're multiplying or dividing them. So now let's talk about how we were to graph this. So first thing I notice is that there's no line underneath my inequality symbol. So since there's no line underneath the inequality symbol, I'm going to draw an open circle. So on the line, I'm going to draw an open circle. And I'm going to name that negative 1. Okay, so if the alligator is facing away from the W, so if it's facing away from the letter, you're going to shade left. Okay? If it were to be facing toward the W, you would shade right. So that might be something important to write down just so you have it for future. So since this one's facing away from the W, we're going to be shading to the left. Okay, so let's take a look at number 4. So first thing on number 4 I actually need to do is I need to get rid of that constant. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 13 from both sides. So we have negative 4k is less than or equal to 27 minus 13, which is 14. So now I can go ahead and divide both sides by negative 4. And even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, oh wait, I'm dividing by a negative. Okay, I got to make sure I flip that symbol. So now that I'm dividing by a negative, I flip that symbol. So then I have negative 14 over 4. Well, this fraction can actually be reduced because both 14 and 4 are both divisible by 2. So then I get k is greater than or equal to negative 7 over 2 when we divide it. So see how this has a line underneath it? Whenever your inequality has a line underneath it, you need to do a solid circle. And then it's facing the k, so we need to go ahead and graph that going to the right. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 5. So for number 5, we need to get our x's on the same side. Now, I like to take the smaller amount of x's and bring it over to the larger. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4x from both sides. Okay, so 9x minus 4x is going to give me 5x, and then I have the 5, and then that's all going to be greater than, I do have a 5, there we go, 15. So now I need to get that 5 over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, and I get that 5x is greater than 15 minus 5, which is 10. Divide both sides by 5, and then I'm going to get that x is greater than 10 divided by 5, which is 2. So again, no line underneath my circle, so I'm going to have an open circle. And the alligator's facing the x, so I'm going to go ahead and shade to the right. Now, let's take a look at number 6. So the first thing I need to do is get that constant over to the other side. So I'm going to do that by subtracting 5 from both sides. So then I get b divided by negative 3 is less than 10. So then that b is being divided by negative 3. So the opposite would be to multiply it by negative 3. So those would cancel out, and I'm left with b here. Now, I just multiplied by a negative number, so I do need to make sure I flip that symbol. Negative 3 times 10 is negative 30. Okay, so now I notice that it's no line underneath, so it's an open circle. Okay, and since it's an open circle, oh my goodness. Whoa, did anybody catch the mistake I just made? Did you guys know that 10 minus 5 is 5, and then you multiply it by negative 3? Wow, I am one smart cookie. Okay, so we get negative 15. So we're going to put an open circle here, and then we're going to go to the right from that negative 15. I think I made that problem the first time I did that video. I did that. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So this one's going to involve some distributing. So we're going to distribute here before we start. So I'm going to have 3d, and then I'm doing negative 2 times 8, which is negative 16d. Negative 2 times negative 9, which is 18. That's going to be greater than negative 2d minus 4. So 3d minus 16d, that's going to give me a negative 13d plus 18 is greater than negative 2d minus 4. So now, since this is a minus 2d, I'm going to go ahead and add that to both sides, okay? Since it's negative, in order to get it over to the other side, I'm going to end up adding it, okay? So the next thing I need to do, I'm trying to bring this line down. It won't let me paste. No? Okay, that line's just going to stay there. So then I end up getting negative 11d plus 18 is greater than negative 4. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 18 from both sides, and I get negative 11d is greater than negative 22. So now to solve for d, I need to divide both sides by negative 11. Again, I'm dividing by a negative number, so I need to be flipping that symbol. And 22 divided by 11 is going to be 2. And since they're both positive, it's going to be, or both negative, sorry, it's going to become a positive. So I notice there's no line underneath it, despite what my handwriting looks like. So I'm going to have an open circle, and since it's facing the D, it's going to go to the right. Okay? So let's take a look at number 8. Again, we're going to start by distributing in this 6. So 6 times 5z is going to give me 30z. 6 times negative 3 is 18, and then we have less than or equal to 36z. Well, since this 36z is already by itself on that side, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 30z from both sides. So when I get negative 18 is less than or equal to 6z. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6z, and some of you are probably thinking, oh my gosh, you're dividing by a negative. But what you have to look at is the number that you're actually dividing each side. Is that number a negative? No, so we do not have to flip the symbol on this one. So it's going to end up being a negative 3. So the alligator mouth is opening towards the Z, and it has a line underneath. So it's going to be solid, and it's going to be going to the right. Okay, so that's your answer for number 8. Let's take a look at number 9. So you're at an amusement park, and they're going to charge you $15 just to walk in the door, and then it's going to be $2.50 for each ride you go on. It's kind of like when you go to the state fair and you like pay to get in, and then you pay to eat a bunch of fried food. You would think you could just pay to get in and then pay for the food, but no. Anyway, so here's how we're going to solve this. If we go to the park with $60, if I only had $3.20s in my pocket, I can't spend more than $3.20s because all I have is that cash. So whatever I spend needs to be less than or equal to that $60. Could I spend exactly $60? Absolutely. But I can't spend more than that. So when I get there, I already have to shell out $15. Okay? Then for every X ride I go on, it's going to cost me $2.50. Okay, so X is going to represent rides, and you can tell because it says to write an inequality that represents the possible of rides. That means we don't know how many rides yet. So first thing I'm going to do is subtract 15 from both sides. So then I get 2.50x is less than or equal to 60 minus 15, which is going to give me 45. So now to solve for x, I need to divide both sides by 250. So I'm going to have x by itself here, and then I'm going to have less than or equal to 45 divided by 250 is 18. So I need to make sure I label that to put it in context of the word problem. So if you think about it, I can go on 18 or less rides. I could go on 16, I could go on 5, I could go on 13, I could go on 18, but I definitely can't go on 19. Okay, so that's what that means. Helps you budget a little bit. So let's take a look at number 10. Okay, so for number 10, it says you have $18.50 to spend on a pizza, and it costs $14 plus 75 cents for each additional topping with the tax included. So we need to write and solve an inequality. Again, if we only have $18.50 to spend on a pizza, we're not going to spend more than that. But we can spend up to $18.50. So we're going to pay a flat fee of $14. Okay? Then, for every X topping we get, because that's what we're looking for is the number of toppings, it's going to cost me 75 cents. So the first thing I'm going to do to solve this equation is to subtract that 14 over to the other side. So I get 0.75 is less than or equal to 18.50 minus 14, which is going to give me 4.50. So really all I have are $4.50 to spend on toppings. So I'm going to divide both sides by 0.75. And then, oops, I forgot my x there. So then I get x is less than or equal to 6 toppings. So you can have up to 6 toppings. Could you include 6 toppings? Absolutely. You could have pepperoni, salami, pineapple, cheese, whatever you want on there, okay? That's going to be 6 toppings. So that concludes your note video for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm here to help you. Thanks for listening.